Blog Talk Radio. Greetings and welcome to the Sales Sense Reality Talk Show with your host, Mike Krause. Mike has sold over $100 million in sales and offers Fortune 500 strategies, tactics, and tools to sales professionals and business leaders. He created this show with one thing in mind, for sales professionals to share their secrets with each other. Join us every Wednesday at 12 to 12:30 Eastern Time, or sign up for updates on Mike's mailing list at salesensesolutions.com. Mike appreciates you listening and wishes you good luck on your next sales call.
Well, welcome everyone. I'm Mike Krause with Sales Sense Reality Talk Show. I'm excited to have Paul Ganem here from ConsultClearline.com, and we're going to talk about recruiting and things like that. I'm really excited to have him. He helps mid-sized organizations in the growth and structuring of their sales teams. His approach has been to encompass recruitment to technology selection to help his clients achieve sustained growth while still maintaining their budget. Professional background is nearly 15 years of recruitment staff augmentation as well as other concentrations in sales management and operations. Vertical specialties include mortgage banking, retail, commercial banking, as well as various B2B services. Services offered: general sales force consultation, small to mid-sized teams from staffing to technology and performance enhancement, recruiting, retention strategy, and succession planning. So without further ado, I introduce Paul Ganem. So Paul, how are you this afternoon?
I'm good, Mike. Thank you for having me here today. I appreciate you.
Oh, absolutely. I'm excited to learn more about the recruiting business. As you know, you're only as strong as your weakest link, and salespeople have a high turnover rate. And I want to jump in and start talking about that. But first, tell the listeners a little bit more about yourself and a little bit more besides the background that I just read off.
I have been in this business in one form or another for about 15 years. I have spent time selling staffing as a service. Majority of my time in the last 10 years has really been selling the service and recruiting. I've done some, I call it doing my time, but I've done some time as a corporate recruiter. And my focus as an entrepreneur and a business person has been to set myself in, as more of a consultant with the companies as opposed to strictly a contingency recruiter. And so my business has changed a lot. I talk with people not just about the hiring process, but the retention process and other things. And I enjoy that piece, being able to follow it along. So I have a little different take on it, but what I do and the concepts are very much tried and true industry concepts.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you have the pulse of the market right now, and obviously the economy is the economy. How is it out there? I mean, are people finding jobs, or give us kind of a profile of how it's looking out there?
In general, the recovery's slow. I mean, we're seeing people are hiring. I'm seeing people loosening up. I'm finding right now I'm courting more opportunities with organizations to help them grow. Where the challenge I see is that these are few and far between. These are companies that tend to be well established, have been very good with their finances, and they're capitalizing on this marketplace as a time to grow, so that when the full turn comes to fruition, that they're in the driver's seat. It leaves some challenges for people who are looking for jobs. For the employers, there's a glut of applicants. The challenge is inherent that they have to screen them. But for the job seeker, setting yourself apart, especially when you're unemployed, and it's difficult. Some companies have policies. They only want people who are employed. They don't tell you that, but they do. And there are ways to set yourself apart that most of us just don't think about. But I challenge everyone out there who might be looking for a new opportunity, whether it's active or passively, to remember that we're all salespeople. We're selling ourselves. So if you think about what we all do with a service, we have features, advantages, and benefits, and the benefits are what matter most to our clientele. It's the same thing when you're looking for a job and you're thinking about yourself now as the product or service. And that's really how I like to talk to people about it. And that goes for the employers. If you're looking for people, you have to have that benefit statement as well. Otherwise, you can blend into the pack. And when the market changes and it becomes an employee's market again, you really don't want to be in the pack. You want to be set apart.
You bring up a great point there, and it's personal branding, isn't it, Paul? Having that ability to, because the company buys you at the end of the day. That's what they're buying, and I think social media can help leverage that for people to create their own brand. And just kind of jumping into...
Yes. Pardon me?
No, what's that again, Paul?
No, I said used correctly. I totally agree with that. With that statement as a blanket.
Yeah, well, expand on that. What are some things? And obviously, LinkedIn is important. In fact, you and I went to St. Bonaventure together, and then we hooked in through LinkedIn. So you can see that there's value in using LinkedIn correctly. And tell the listeners a little bit more. I'm still amazed that people don't know LinkedIn is out there and they're looking for a job.
I'm a huge advocate of LinkedIn. I'm not as big of a Twitter person. I think it's because, and I'll say this to my own detriment, it's probably because of lack of understanding on my part. But I'm getting toward more of an understanding for implementation. And where I'm going is that's the gray area, the understanding portion, because so many people don't understand, and then what they end up portraying about themselves is not necessarily the case or not really what people out there are looking for. When I look at your business profile on LinkedIn, it's very pertinent to who you are and what you do for a living. Whereas Facebook might be your personal portal that's very private to you. And I encourage people, with the latter being said, this is going to sound strange to hear on a radio show, but folks, be careful with Facebook. Great social
I agree.
media, but let me tell you the things. I have friends who work in large corporations, and the things they find out about their employees over Facebook would astound you. And I use the old caveat: if you wouldn't want your mother or your sister or someone in your family close to you knowing about something, don't put it up there. And putting a barometer of your day on there is not a good idea either, especially when people start to blend their worlds of business and their personal lives. I've seen it be very detrimental to people.
I agree, Paul. There's so many things out there. That's the first thing, and my newsletter next month is going to be social media tips. And the first tip is go in there and tweak your settings, because it should not be all public information. If you're putting up photos and things like that, and I agree, it's not going to be good. And I think people are under an illusion that a recruiter or someone that's about to hire you is not Googling your name and using Facebook as a sword or a shield,
Well, that's true. And I use a lot of media. I use a lot of things to find people, because people say, "What do you use?" There, LinkedIn's always up on my page, up on my desktop, and different things. But what I will tell you is that I cross-reference a lot of areas. If anything is public, I tend to find it, just because I'm looking for your phone number. I recruit the passive candidate, and so I'm always looking for the person who may not be looking. They're happy to a point and content, but they really have something more in mind for their career. So I don't do a lot of advertising. I'm the hunter, and I do everything on referral as well. So you find that you sometimes find out things you don't want to know. It's like choosing an email address. If you have an AOL address, it's probably it could be considered risque to some degree. Get yourself another one when you're looking for a job. Be careful, because everything is under the microscope. And you're interviewing until you're hired or you're out of the process. It goes right down to the negotiation table. I tell people, behave well when you're negotiating, because you're showing the interviewer how you're going to negotiate with their clientele. You're still interviewing. So it's hard to say. I don't want to make it too serious, but you have to use your better judgment.
I agree. We are under the microscope, and you bring up some good points about the Facebook and just kind of being always on the interview there. When and I want to go back to your hunting, and that's what people, that's the pain that people have out there in the sales. You are a hunter, and how do you hunt, and what are some techniques that you're using to get into the call, and just kind of walk us through your process?
Well, the funny thing is that I started off as a salesperson, and I happened to be in the staffing HR vertical. And the reason I'm saying this is because the sales world and the recruiting world are very similar. When you're a salesperson, you're selling your service, you're selling yourself, you're selling your company. And for me, I sell myself to people in that to gain their confidence as a trusted confidant, and to be able to bend their ear long enough to learn about them, most importantly, and bring an opportunity to them if it's suitable. If not, to generate, a referral relationship. So there's always, these are very much the same as selling. I'm selling an opportunity to someone, and they're deciding if it's a good idea for them. And just the same with interviewing people. There's always a what's in it for me on both sides of the table, and I think that's in this economy, that's what's being forgotten. I know people who are looking for work right now, and they'll talk to me, friends, and they'll tell me about how corporations conduct themselves, and you'd be surprised. They're commoditizing these jobs, and I don't think you should ever commoditize that. If you're hiring people, you want to have the premier employer, the premier brand for the employee. You want to be the place. Nothing's perfect, but you want to know where you're strong. And I think there's both sides of the fence. There really are. I had a conversation with an HR manager this morning that we were discussing working together, and she's one of the few people who told me, Paul, we're having a little transition in our company with personnel. We're very concerned about our employees and how what it does to the morale, and so on and so on. And they were just people retiring and the usual stuff, but they took a moment to step back. And I think when you do things like that, it's very telling to your employees how much you care, and you build yourself a brand over time. The little things. Yes,
you do.
So you have to be on the hunt. You just never know where it's going to be. You'd be surprised. And I have a Post-it that goes on my computer monitor because I sit in front of it as I'm on the phone with people, and it says, ask for the referral. It's the simple things, Mike. You train people on them all day long, with your clients. These simple things. The most tenured people can forget to ask for the referral.
Yeah,
we have nothing.
That's so true.
So I do the same things that, that you talk to people about and that the salespeople do. We're all doing that to a degree. It's just a matter of the venue.
And I just did a webinar about an hour ago, and I just talked about the fundamentals. And it's so easy to forget the fundamentals. Making the phone call, returning people's calls, asking for the referrals, showing up professionally, et cetera, and we all kind of veer away after a while. We get comfortable in some different routines that probably aren't the best for us, and it's just a habit. We're all creatures of habit, and some habits can be bad. And asking for that referral, everybody knows, but very few do it. In fact, Culpepper study, 85% of people do not ask for the referral at the end. So, and probably people are nodding, oh yeah, I always ask. Well, 85% do not. So it's so critical to do that. Tell me more about your territory. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Oh, no, I apologize. You were asking about my territory management?
Yeah. Yeah, the territory. And I like how you, and because a couple weeks ago I was talking, and I'm always talking about it, unique proposition. And you have really segmented yourself into a couple different areas. And I think that's just great, because you can't be the jack of all trades. You can't be a generalist anymore. There's so many specialists. You have to be a specialist. No one wants a generalist. No one wants a jack of all trades. So tell the listeners a little bit more about your territory and your ideal client and how you develop this.
My territory is a national territory, and I say that with caution because I look toward working with companies. You said, be a specialist. My clients are looking for a specialist as well. They're looking for specialized salespeople from their industry. I do a lot of work in the mortgage business, and we only hire experienced people. When the market changes, we'll probably be looking toward bringing trainees in. But in the here and the now, I only call on industry experienced people. And where people get confused about recruiting is, well, you put an ad up. Well, when you look for that specific person, we all know, we all believe, and it's true that we're all part of a business community. And in the business community, we have our own place in it with others, our peers. So I look toward companies that, A, are specialized, B, not so specialized that there's no one out there, and C, that are mid-size, small to mid-size, because the large companies out there commoditize this. I don't want to be a vendor with people. I'd rather be their partner, and I know that's an overused term, Mike. It's overused because people say it without sincerity, I think, and so I look toward companies that don't have a recruiter in-house. Their HR person might very well be their accounting specialist. It could be the owner. Those 50 to 100 person companies that are picking up traction, but they need that extra help. And specifically ideal with the sales function. I've dealt with other functions before, and I'm proficient in different technological endeavors. I just tend to focus on the sales function, especially in this economy, where if you're not making money for a company, you're really you're an expense. So I focus on those areas, and as long as it's a situation where I can work via phone, that's typically what I'm doing. And there's about 95% of what's out there can usually be done via phone.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So those are my. I don't have. I apologize. What was that?
No, keep going.
I mean, as industries go, I'm open, but I'm very much, I like business development. I like the investment world. I like the banking world. I love B2B service sales, human resource consulting, even merchant card service. There's some of these that are staples in the business world that will never go away, and they require attention. And I like things that are difficult. It ensures that my service is necessary, but also I'd like to be able to show some tangible results on the sales bottom line, just like you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all results. And going back to one thing that you said, you have to produce or you're gone in a company nowadays. They just don't have the bandwidth anymore to keep people on. That the companies are lean and mean. They're definitely lean and mean, and you have to create value every single day. Now, share with the listeners a little bit more about why outsource. Why hire you? Why can't we just hire someone here, Paul? I mean, I'll just play the devil's advocate here. We're thinking about going out and hiring our own recruiter in-house, and we're going to have it managed in-house. So what's the advantage of hiring you, Paul?
Okay. The advantage, and like I said, the situation has to be particularly right. The advantage of outsourcing, and I'll share this, especially if you are looking as a sales organization to grow. You have to look at there's a consequence when you do anything. If you hire an internal person, the good news is they're exclusive to you. The good news is you know what they do, so on and so forth. But you do acquire a certain level of risk with them, and the risk is they may go ahead and not represent you correctly or not bring the results, and that's the risk with anyone, including myself. I work hard to avoid that. But where my advantage comes in is there's a life cycle when it comes to growing a sales organization. Everyone believes, and you and I know this, the stock market makes people think that the only way you want to go in this world is up. You always have to be growing that bottom line. You have to be growing your sales, so on and so forth. Otherwise, you're nothing. But how many of your clients, Mike, have you met with where incremental growth is important? They're profitable, they're private companies, and once they get through that growth mode, the recruiter can become outmoded very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at a return on investment with the person, and all of a sudden, the ROI was wonderful on the upswing. Say you needed to hire 20 net salespeople. In other words, in 1 year you want to grow 20 people net. So that's hiring new, that's attrition. You want that number. You're not always going to be doing that every year. And when you're not, and let's say the market dips, you look toward that recruiter as an expense, and then they become expendable. And I've been in that situation a couple of times where I don't want to be there, and I decided to pull myself from that. And I talk to companies, and as for me, the benefit is I'm not looking for a full-time salary. I work on a performance basis. I've combined a few of the different worlds of recruiting and brought them together, where my clients have a level of exclusivity with me. They have me on a retainer that is nothing near what they would have to pay for, that skilled recruiter in their industry. And we have a performance component. So as the market changes, my compensation changes with it. Therefore, it's much easier to justify me and also have me there consistently to bring the best people to the table, the passive candidate, the person who I'm sure in your sales management days there were a few people that you always would have loved to hire, that you would have made room for if they came to you or if the opportunity arose.
Absolutely.
And those people they take constant work. I have people that I call every 90 days because I know that if they tell me they need to make a move, that I have people for them to talk with who always want to talk with them, and that's what the relationship like mine brings. Now that is in common with a corporate recruiter, but the ebb and flow of the ROI becomes easier with me. I had a conversation with the CEO of a company in California, and he asked me the same question last week, and I said, well, over time, your need for me is going to plateau in terms of your growth. However, my compensation is tied directly to the productivity of the people I've brought to you in the last 12 to 24 months. Therefore, I'm justified in that so long as, we're meeting certain levels, that we have to establish. And I think that's the biggest difference, So I cannot handle a plethora of clients, but as my business grows, the one thing I'm looking to do is take the concept and bring others into my business to perform that for my future clients. A recruiter can only handle 3 or 4 of these type of assignments at one time, but I want a productive business model where my clients and I have more pleasant conversations than than the one where the contingency headhunter that does a finder's fee gets paid $10,000 for finding a person, and that finder's fee is usually only tied toward them staying a period of time. Whereas with me, you have a little bit of my consultation fee is a guaranteed draw, Mike, against commission of the future people I bring. It's all modeled upon my client. There's nothing standard about it. I don't have a rate sheet. We work it out to make it reasonable and reflective of the performance of the new people I've introduced to the company and helped hire. So it's unique that, if you're going to, I found that CEOs of companies, they don't mind that $10,000 figure. That doesn't bother them. But what they don't like is the question mark behind the ROI on that $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
So my ROI accrues over time with the ROI of the people I've brought to the company. It's self-justified, and it's unique. It's not unique. I'm sure there's other people doing it, but I see it as a model for the future, a model for a rough economic time that will sustain during the best of booms. So I really want to bring more of it to the business public. I think everyone should demand ROI.
Absolutely. We only have a few minutes left here. Tell the listeners a little bit more about some tips, either on the management side or on the candidate side. What are some things that are do's and don'ts out there?
I think we hit the candidate side about some of the things, the social media that I think we see abused quite a bit. But you know what, I'll tell you that as a manager, the do's and the don'ts, okay, the do's, we tell our salespeople always be closing. And that doesn't mean a hard close of, are you buying now? We're always going toward that next step to, create a client, to create a referral source. I encourage people to do that with the recruiting process. And what I mean by that is leverage your current employees. When I consult with a client, I talk to their current employees. You would be surprised how many referrals I get from them. And two, if you are interviewing someone, it's good to stay in touch with them. If it's not the right, you think they're a great person and not the right position for them or not the right time, utilize it. Create your intellectual capital that helps you grow because you want to network. I have referral networks in various regions. And, if someone calls me today and said, Paul, I need someone in Atlanta, I have 35, 40 people I know in Atlanta that I can pop an email to saying, I'm working on this. Let me know if any of your friends are looking. And you have to be able to build those for yourself. So always be recruiting, just like we're always closing, because I think you'll be surprised the return you can get from the simple who do you know question that we tell our salespeople they should be asking.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. I mean, you never know when you bump into someone, or even if you see someone that's out of your industry, if they handled you right and the customer service, and they're interviewed right there. I mean, if they treated you great and you were, let's say, a customer of that business, there's a great prospect right there. The prospects are all over the place. We got to close out here, but Paul, how do people get a hold of you if they want some more information?
They're more than welcome to call me. My toll-free line is 877-886-5952. They can, of course, connect to me through LinkedIn with you, through you, or my website, which is consultclearline.com. Any which way, I'd be happy to have a conversation with someone. And my consultation initials are, there's no charge for those. I always enjoy meeting people and finding out about their business. And if I can't help you out, I always say I have the Miracle on 34th Street philosophy. Is if I can't help you, my job is to refer you, or at least help you get to the right get off in the right direction. And my commitment is to do just that. At least for anyone I speak with.
That is so funny. I use that philosophy all the time. If I don't have it, I'm going to get you somewhere else. I mean, and that's the long-term sales philosophy. That's what you need to be. I mean, there's no question about that. Well, Paul, I really enjoyed our time this afternoon, and thanks again for taking time out of your busy day. And any other closing comments?
No, I thank everyone for listening who's here listening today, and then the folks, of course, who may listen in on the recording of this, of this webcast. So thank you so much, Mike.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. And everyone, good luck on your next sales call. Thanks again. We'll talk to you next week. Bye now.